Well done. Well done. They clapped. Well done. No, I wasn't going to say anything until they did then. You see what I did there? You know, I think that's about, yeah, you learned. Well done. I'm very, very impressed. I heard that, Ross. Don't say rude things in my ear, Ross, because you know what will happen. I will repeat them in a Star Wars type way. Now, I am in fact Stanford Chidge, not Obi-Wan Kenobi or even Obi John McKell. And this in fact is the Chelsea Football Fancast, episode 4, apparently. Anyway, we're going to talk about the Swansea game now. I can't wait, because it was just, I had such a good day. I had such a good day.
It was a good day.
Were you saying that at half-time?
I'll tell you what I was saying at half-time, because I actually, you know, as always, I sat in my seat that I've been in for 12, 13, 14 years. I can't even remember now.
Longer than that.
Yeah, you know, same seat forever. And I'm sat there nice and comfortable. There's nobody sitting next to me, you know, your old seat. And then lo and behold, some very fat, smelly geezer decides to sit next to me. So within 5 minutes of the kick-off, I'm up the back, standing behind Joe, no less a man than Joe Tweed. And who should join me but the Right Honourable Darren Mantle.
All right.
I had the pleasure of Darren's company for the entire game, which is actually, I know Paul's looking like, it is actually quite a fun experience, especially when you're getting hugged by him. After
he sits where he wants, really.
He sits where he wants.
Are you allowed to stand at the back like that?
No, I never ever stand at the back. I'm just
back?
making this up. This is kind of like for TV. You know.
I see what you mean. You're telling people that you're not standing at the back.
It's a fiction.
You are standing at the back. So next time you stand at the back, nobody's looking. A steward doesn't come to find you.
Because there are people at Chelsea who do watch this programme.
If you were to stand at the back,
if I was hypothetically to stand at the back,
yeah. Is that a regular occurrence?
It would be if I hypothetically did it. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. So anyway, there I was standing at the back with Darren.
But
hypothetically.
If you were hypothetically standing, you also hypothetically wouldn't be standing in front of anybody who's sitting
down. No, I'm
down.
not actually, because it is at the back.
Yes.
So there we go. Anyway, we cleared that up. We're all happy now.
Yeah, so there's nobody in your seat at this time?
No, because... Hypothetically.
Yeah.
Okay, now, what I would like... Can we talk about the game now?
Yeah. I'm just trying to get the picture
The point I was going to make was when I spoke to Darren about half an hour in, and I mean, let's face it, Swansea were playing well, and I said, mate, we need to score and get at least parity in the first half. And I said, this will be a real test of this game. I said, if we come back and win this, it's going to be massive. I said, if we don't, everybody will be saying like it was last season, oh, you know, yeah, Chelsea, you know, they slip up against sides like Swansea, blah-de-blah-de-blah. They'll beat all the top sides, but they'll lose points against us. And so it had that kind of pattern about last year, and then...
I mean, the momentum swung for me after about 35 minutes.
Yeah.
For the first 35,
we got into the game, didn't we?
Yeah.
Yes.
And you could see it was coming from the second that Hazard got the ball and Hazard started running at defenders was at the point that it started turning Chelsea's way.
Mourinho had a very long chat to Fabregas after 20 minutes.
Mid-game, whilst the game was going on.
And the same, he had a very long chat to Hazard.
You can see that from the East Stand, can't you?
That's exactly where it's right in front of me. And put his arm around him, and I never understand now. I thought the fourth official would say, you can't do that. They don't seem to care anymore. No. Anyway, he did that, moved everything around, and from then on, they ceased to have as many attacks, because they could have scored 3. That chap with the Gomez, terrific at holding the ball up. Fantastic. Really fantastic performance.
It looks like Lukaku with better hair.
We thought Kenwyne Jones. Exactly. Sorry.
Welsh name that.
He got applauded off by the
Chelsea
Harding.
I applauded him off.
I thought he played very well.
I thought he had a
was a
fantastic
real
game.
handful, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Absolutely. There was a lovely moment where he actually held the ball. What's happening there?
Mixler's come out on my phone.
Oh, God.
That was a noise.
Is it a few seconds behind us?
It was.
So we could listen to what we've just said.
Hang on, should we just stop the program? We're going to listen to back. Oh, we're talking rubbish.
Well, we're talking rubbish. Yeah, there was a wonderful moment where Gomez, what was it? He couldn't keep off. He just kept the ball and just held him off.
It was Cahill.
It was Matic. No, he also did it to Matic. In fact, that was the build-up to their first goal.
Yeah.
He out-muscled Matic, and I don't think I've ever seen that happen since Matic has been at Chelsea.
That's right, he was completely outnumbered.
But I think for me, I mean, I think you're right. I think the problem is that in our new kind of cavalier attacking style that we're exhibiting at home, and I applaud and love that, it means that Brenner and Aspie are whizzing up. Fabregas is getting way ahead of Matic, and I thought that Matic was getting quite isolated. What I really liked about Swansea, I thought they reminded me a bit like Leicester played. You know, when they lost the ball, they got everybody behind it and they pressed.
But they pressed.
And then when they got the ball, they attacked in numbers, and they were going down the flanks where the spaces were.
But what was obvious as well is there always seemed to be like I hate using the word, like a vertical pass.
Oh, what? Is a vertical pass one that just goes up in the air?
No,
it's an AVB-ism.
And Crouch
it's
straightforward
down the middle of the floor.
With this football?
I'm just going to throw it at you.
Touché.
On the head, son.
What is this, basketball?
So what
God's
is this?
sake.
Can be, if you
Explain to
like.
me though. I
Well,
don't
no, it's
quite
just
understand
a
It's a
straight
football.
straight pass
It is,
into the
okay.
space down the middle, like the movements of the
Yeah.
players rather than the ball, and it was like there was big space between the two midfielders, and frankly, I don't think Oscar pulled his weight. And we were saying
No,
at
I
half
agree
time
completely.
First 20 minutes.
Ramirez was the one to.
First 20 minutes, it wasn't just the two fullbacks that were too far forward, but Fabregas wasn't really holding. He was playing further forward than he should
I
have
know.
been as well.
And
It
that was
did
the
leave
gas.
Matic exposed, yes.
Look, that aside, though, I mean, I think, I think obviously he must have got into Fabregas' ear a bit and said, you
Yeah.
need to be
But
mindful
it
of
changed. They
responsibilities.
didn't have another shot.
But also, I mean, I agree with you to a certain extent. I think Schürrle didn't have one of his best games. He had a bit of an off day. But I
Well,
thought
yeah.
I thought Ramirez actually made a really good difference because he gave a little bit of
Completely.
bite in midfield, a bit of
Completely.
control.
But he changed it because there was no longer the winger. He changed it because you then had Oscar playing more. on the
Yeah,
right.
On
and
the telly.
you were crying out for energy in the first half. People closing down
Yeah.
Swansea and actually putting pressure
But we
on
were
the ball.
we were
so
not
weren't-
winning the second ball in that first half
No.
an hour, and they
No.
were.
There was a dreadful moment where I don't think we touched the ball for 5 minutes. Actually, it was really quite alarming.
Yes, no, they
It's
were
a
big.
long
But,
moment.
by putting Ramirez
But it was
playing
to take us
deep,
through.
it meant
Series
that
of moments.
Fabregas could play further forward,
Mm.
which brought both Oscar and Hazard.
Well,
into the game.
I also think they went, without getting too technical and all the rest of it, I think they actually changed to a 4-1-4-1 in the second half. That's what they were saying on the TV when I watched it when I got home. Admittedly, though, I was very, very, very drunk. So it could have been
Joyous,
4,041 for all I knew. Right, look, we need to talk about two things, Costa and Fabregas. We mentioned it earlier on in the ratings. I tell you what's I mean, apart from the fact that and Jason, I saw Cundy after the game, and he summed up beautifully. He says Costa is a goal pig. That's a lovely way of putting it. Lovely way of putting it. But I think we have to give due credit to Fabregas too. That's now 6 consecutive assists, which is also a record, as well as Costa's 7 goals in 4 games. Do you know what's really it's reminded me of? That beautiful partnership that Lampard and Drogba had.
Same.
People forget that, but
Same.
they were brilliant for each other.
Yeah.
I mean, if only Fabregas could score a 10th of Frank's goals. But there is the seeds of a great partnership there already, don't you think, Smart?
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. I
Well,
read
I
that
love
in the
about
paper.
you,
I
Mark.
read that in the paper
When I
today as
talk
well.
to you and I want you to say lots of things, you say nothing.
No,
When
I
I
read
don't
that.
want you to say anything,
No,
you say lots.
No, I read
You're a
that in the-
genius.
Whereas
I
I'm
read that
quite
in
happy
the
to
paper
talk all
today
the
as well.
time.
I
Sorry.
made that note in my because I proved to you it's in my notes at the game, so you can naff off. Right, Jonathan, say something sensible.
No.
See, that's
No, that's not true at all. You know I constantly speak, and you just
I
shut me
know,
up all
but
the time.
when I want you to, you say nothing.
No, that's not true at all. The point I was going to make has disappeared now. It's gone.
It's gone. Has he made it?
And no, none of
But it
them
is an
have.
interesting thing, though, Pablo, isn't it? I mean, they both made a great start to the season,
Oh, yeah.
and they are both clearly the major difference.
Yeah, and with the exception of Aguero, they've probably been the two players in the entire league that have started the season.
I think that's absolutely
best.
spot on. Who was delighted to see Remy score his debut goal?
I was delighted.
Oh,
I just want to
yeah,
say
absolutely.
one more point.
You've
There was
remembered it now,
Yeah,
haven't
remembered it now. Is that Fabregas? I wish that he doesn't. I don't know whether he has a good shot or not. I haven't seen him
That
shoot.
free kick was a stinker, wasn't it?
Yeah, stinker. Absolutely dreadful. Straight
What's
up the
happened to our free kick takers?
Yeah.
Where are they? I mean, Lampard's
What, you
gone,
mean-
Drogba's gone,
Well, it was Mata, though.
Louise
No,
has
Drogba's-
gone, Mata's gone.
Drogba's back.
Well, he's hardly plays. So, Louise, Mata, Frank,
space.
Yeah.
Drogba,
So who
who's
is
taking
Alex?
free
Alex.
kicks?
Alex.
I mean, Lampard and Louise particularly were 1 in 30 free kicks each would go in.
Well-
They had awful free kick percentages.
Who's
They
better
just
than
scored
that?
good
Louise
ones.
went in,
Like-
was in the World Cup.
According to, I'm having a David Coleman moment here. According to Ross in the gallery, Fabregas scored a great free kick in pre-season.
He did.
So there you go.
So that's why he's the man. Going to be the man, is he? But he hit
Well, I
that-
thought it was a stinker. Now,
It
look,
was.
we kind of mentioned briefly about the defensive concerns, and we've conceded 5 goals in the last 2 games, admittedly against fairly decent sides. Should we be concerned? I mean, is this? I mean, clearly he's got the players, and I think he's got the brief actually to attack more aggressively, and as I said, a bit more cavalier. Is there a slight concern that the balance is a bit skew if at the moment, Pablo?
I think there's always going to be a bedding in period between a new goalkeeper and a defence, no matter how
Well,
settled the defence is
I mean, this is what I was
and
going to
how
say,
good the
Pablo.
goalie is.
Not we've scored 5 goals in 2 games. Not once has and in a way I agree with this, but not once has Courtois been singled out to blame. And I think of the Everton game, none of them were his fault. Were any of them his fault this time?
No, I don't. There's actually directly been anything that's his fault. I think his distribution sometimes isn't helpful to the team. But I guess it's more probably just a communication thing with all of them.
He
and I
can
think that
throw it a long way.
Yeah,
Courtois.
and he can pick
Yeah.
up people with the kick as well.
Yeah.
Actually,
But I thought maybe the second goal, Shelby's goal, I thought Courtois possibly could have done better with that
come
one.
on, it was one-on-one.
It was
Decent,
one-on-one, yeah.
it was a
Yeah.
decent goal, and he was. I mean, I think the biggest problem was that Cahill was. You and I were talking about this, I think, afterwards, weren't we? But anyway, Cahill was back. Terry was forward. Aspie was nowhere.
I personally thought both the centre backs played really poorly for the second game in a row.
Really?
Of all the goals we've conceded, that was the one that concerned me most.
Well, the very first one.
No, the last
No,
one.
that's
The
the
last
second
one.
one,
the
But I think the balance had gone because Fabregas was off. And Salah was wandering around all over the place.
I also
Yeah,
think they
headless
switched off because they were falling.
Right, I'm gonna get some sense from those lovely people on the benches. Benches, you know, what are your thoughts about this game? I mean, you know, obviously Costa's fantastic, and Fabregas did really well too. But I mean, you know, are you sharing our concerns about the defence?
Yes and no. I mean, it's very early days. You know, 4 games in, 4 wins. We can tie up the loose ends, get more defensively sound as the season moves on. So, 4 from 4, scoring a lot of goals. You know, onwards and upwards.
I mean, you know, we've been going on about it. This kind of free-flowing and attacking play. And I mean, there were times during the game. I mean, they were absolutely tearing Swansea apart, and it looked like a game of pinball at one stage. And I, for one, as a football sport, I love that. I love seeing my team attack that mercilessly. So, are you enjoying that as well?
Yeah, I mean, was it 15 goals in our last 2 games? So it's great to watch, and really came away thinking, yeah, I've seen a really good match.
What's not to like, Diane?
Well, I think there's a lot to like, really, at the end of it. I think because now everyone's got a lot more confidence that we've got a decent striker, that they're pushing more forward, so we are going to be left a little bit vulnerable at the back from time. But as long as we're scoring more than we're conceding, who cares? It's
a bit kind of, it reminds me like Keegan's Newcastle. We'll just score more goals than you because we can. I kind of like that.
Here's a question.
I love it.
Hang on, sorry, thank you, benches. Sorry, Pablo?
Here's a question. Do you reckon they'll look open against City next week?
Against who?
City. On Saturday.
No, I don't. I mean, actually, you're going to love this. I did a little bit of, you know, Chidge big upness, but I was on Singapore radio this morning. I was on. Hello, everybody out, my new fans in Singapore. I just want to say hello. I was on Singapore radio this morning, and I made that exact point because they were saying, "Oh, you're a bit dodgy defensively, blah blah blah, a bit like Man United defensively, blah blah blah." I said, "No." I said, "Look, I think you know what Jose has done. He's devised this more attacking style at home, because last year we were very defensive as we expect, and we weren't breaking them down, and we were having a few banana skins." But this year we're going right for the jugular and we're banging the goals in and we're absolutely mullering them. But I said, you know, when you come up against a side like City or Arsenal or any of our top 4 rivals, he will change it completely tactically and he will base it completely on who we're playing against. So, for example, next week he will match City physically and he will pack that midfield and he will just try and hit them on the break. And that's what he'll do. Don't you think?
He didn't do that against Everton, though, did he?
Well, I don't think he expects Everton to be, you know, I'm talking about.
But equally, that was more.
That was.
I mean, it was an unlikely start, wasn't it? It's not the kind of thing that happens often. Like, so yeah, I mean, I think Ramirez is going to be using the big games all year, and he did actually start him at Everton as a conservative. It was more 4-3-3, so I suspect we'll see that again.
Horses for courses. I think he's got such a good squad. He'll pick the teams.
If Ramirez was a horse, what horse would he be?
He'd be
Nijinsky.
A white Palomino.
Would he?
No, I don't know.
No, I don't think he would.
Just throw that out there.
I don't think he would.
I'm kind of really wishing I hadn't thrown that out there now.
He'd be Black Beauty.
Oh, but close to the bone.
No,
I'll tell you what, talking of Ramirez and save your blushes, Jonathan, you're getting a little bit red, it has to be said.
He won't be red.
A little bit red.
I'm ashamed that I don't, my knowledge of horses.
You're very lucky that the lighting's a bit moody tonight, they can't see that.
I'm happy to share my colour with the world.
He'd be a Pelopony, wouldn't he? Really?
I think, actually, I've just realised why I've got this football. Okay, so whenever Martin says something stupid or annoys me, I can throw it at him really hard. Okay,
but what you can do is pretend to throw it at him and throw it at me instead.
I could do that too.
I'll get
that would be known as the double pivot, wouldn't it?
It would be.
Anyway,
hit Pablo on the head.
Ramirez. I think you've got a really good point, all of you actually, because I think Ramirez is going to be used as the enforcer this year. You know, if Jose needs somebody to go in there and kick somebody, Ramirez is your man.
Whereas in the past, it's been Mikel's been the one that's been used for these big games.
But he's a bit slow, isn't he? You know, really, he is.
As Diane said to me earlier, he hasn't been carded yet.
What, Ramirez?
Yes, which is a real
He hasn't been
surprise,
on the
isn't
pitch
it?
long enough.
That's
for
what it
goodness
is.
sake.
Yeah, but sorry, only takes him 2 minutes to kick
Yeah,
somebody
that's
normally.
true.
Well,
Did he get a
he usually
booking?
gets kicked quite a lot himself.
Did
as
he get a
well,
booking
so.
on Saturday?
No, no.
I can't believe
no.
he was on for a whole half.
Nobody got
He
booked
was.
on Saturday
He
from
was.
Chelsea.
Really, that's amazing. Now, look, very quickly before we run out of time, I just talking of people getting kicked. Actually, it's a very accidentally brilliant segue. I thought Eden Hazard had the best game for us that he's had this season. He's almost getting back to the Eden Hazard we know and
Fast
love.
Street.
And he was saying, wasn't he, earlier in the week, that what we were saying on the show the other week, that whole weight of responsibility about having to create everything and score all the goals has fallen off him now we've got Costa and Fabregas. Yeah. But the point I really want to make, he's getting kicked for fun at the moment. Does he need a bit more protection?
You won't
What,
get it.
thicker shin pads?
How can he do that? Have Ivanovic stand in front of him?
Well, I mean, I would volunteer. You know, I was rubbish at football, but I was really good at kicking people. I'll happily just come on, kick a few people.
Whoa! Chidge!
What a
You've
furniture!
broken the chair's leg, Chidge.
Is that a yellow card?
No,
That's
off.
self-defense.
You're off.
That's a
Chidge.
straight red.
You're off. You're off. I'm taking over.
Self-defense. That would be funny. You should do that. But anyway, the bottom line is that, you know, does he need somebody to really go around? I mean, there's a wonderful story that I heard a lot actually recently because of Ryan Giggs retiring and everything. And when Giggs was very young and playing at Manchester United, when Brian Robson was still playing, basically Giggs was getting kicked all over the place in the first half. And Brian Robson, who I've interviewed and is a lovely bloke, he went up to him and said, you know, what's wrong in his Geordie accent? He said, why are you getting kicked by this horrible hairy ass?
That's a great Giggs impression.
He said, don't worry. He said, leave him to me, son. And basically, Robson just went around and kicked 7 bells out of this guy for the next 10 minutes. And then he said, there you go, it's all sorted now, love. And the guy didn't go near Giggs for the rest of the game. Well, we should have somebody who does that, I think. I'd be up for that.
Ron Harris.
He's a bit old for that, really.
No, couldn't he just bring
He
him on?
could whack him with his crutches, actually. You know.
Bring back Vinnie Jones.
But I mean, the
Just
bottom
get
line is,
Mourinho to do it off the side of the pitch.
isn't it nice? Isn't it nice to see Hazard coming back into form? Every run, he was a constant threat. Every run he made, they were in panic.
It was a great moment in the first half, actually, in the when he got to the sideline and he did that shot, and Costa didn't anticipate it. What I loved about the Costa moment was Costa then sort of clearly was angry with himself for not having anticipated that the shot wouldn't hit the target, because he's obviously going back
The
to Costa
shot wouldn't
again,
hit the fan, in fact.
very clever, but
Not
just
very
that.
funny.
Yeah.
Not
Anyway,
bad. Sad
we've gone off. Yeah, I thought Hazard was wonderful, particularly second half.
Well, it's
The second half was so
interest-
joyous.
And
it's
so
good
was
watching
Costa.
them.
But
Yeah.
it's interesting against
Oscar. Oscar.
I'll save it.
Against Everton, the one time that Hazard actually tried to take on his man, we scored, and he had a pretty
Well, actually,
poor
Sean
game by
Coleman
his.
scored a great goal.
Oh yeah. Well, we scored.
Yeah.
Someone scored. Someone laughed in his face.
It was
as
a
well, which
cannon,
good.
I think, wasn't it? In off.
But and then obviously, he's much better. He's absolutely unstoppable, and he wants to run at players, which hasn't been enough.
But I think
together.
maybe he's let's be fair, he's had to adapt. He's had to change his role a little bit. But I think what we're now going to see, and I hope we will see, is Hazard being used almost as an out and out. In the old days, they'd have called it a winger, but somebody with all the skills who can run at defences and terrorise them. And every time he gets the ball, there are 2 or 3 men on him. And that goal that Remy scored was just. I mean, this will get a mention in the fannies in a minute. It was like the Keystone Cops. He just ran past everybody for fun, got in the penalty area. There were 3 of them in a line. One of them ends up on their arse because he does one jink. He does another jink. The other one kind of looked the other
He
way.
just lays it off.
I mean, and that I want to see that. I think it's just fantastic having a player like that. And if he only does that, I'm happy.
What, you mean like
We've
Pat
got-
Nevin?
Yeah, well, yeah, Pat. I mean, Duff and Robin. Duff and Robin used to do that
At
too.
the moment, he's able to do it because he's got someone like Fabregas who's going to back him up.
Exactly.
Something that Deco on form used to be really, really good at was getting to his wingers and always being close to the man with the ball.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
But
it's all of them.
A word of praise for Oscar second half.
Thank you.
He was playing like Oscar can play, and I think finally the Alka-Seltzer are working. He's getting rid of his World Cup hangover.
I think you could be right there, and I mean, Pablo and I were having a chat about that, which you can't reveal publicly, I'm afraid, can we? We can't reveal. Anyway, we're going to have to go to a very short break now because Ross has got in my ear. I don't think he can count because mine says 30 seconds, actually, Ross. But anyway, enough of that. After a very short break, we'll be back to reveal this week's fannies. Do not go away.